the thing that most people are afraid of with automation being like the computers rising up against us and, you know,
Skynet.
Or, you know, put their quote unquote lives ahead of humans. And I don't think that's where the real fear should be. It is that capitalists will replace humans with machines while also destroying the safety nets that could ensure food and housing and medical care and all the stuff that we're going to need that we won't be working to pay for anymore.
Right. Which is something everyone should be entitled to.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk. Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on? I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that? James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas. Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Heldor joy, everyone, and welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And Allie, you just got back from an away mission.
I did. I did.
Everything went okay? Because normally in Star Trek, if you get in a shuttlecraft and go off to a symposium somewhere, bad shit happens.
I didn't wear red.
Okay, good.
But yeah, I did go on an away mission to Canada to see Coldplay.
Hell yeah.
Oh, so cool.
That's awesome.
I think I bought tickets to Coldplay like in January, so like 9 months ago. I've been watching their current tour and it looks amazing. And I've been a fan of Coldplay for years, but then like when I got divorced a few years ago, like their albums, their music got me through like a really hard time.
Oh, nice.
And I was listening to it nonstop, just when I was driving, when I was running, when I was cleaning. It was just always Coldplay, Coldplay.
Yeah.
And it's got me through a really tough time.
Isn't it interesting how we all tend to find that thing, whatever it is, whether it's a TV show like Star Trek or an artist or.
And yeah. And then it's funny. I was going through all these emotions, and then like now when I listen to it, it doesn't take me back to those old emotions, but it just like, it's like I got through it. And it's I don't go back to those emotions when I hear the song.
Right. The song doesn't trigger.
Right. I'm not triggered, but it's comforting, and I just love them. And so
that's awesome. I love
took a weekend, flew up there, and it was cheap because I'm broke.
Yeah, no shit.
So I had to do points, and then I stayed at this really cool YWCA.
Okay.
Which is sort of a hotel, but it is a hotel. But then you have like community showers on each floor. So you don't have a shower in your room.
The college dorm.
It's totally a college dorm. I loved it. It was, I was like, this is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Luckily, right across the street from the stadium. So
walked. Well, that's cool. Yeah.
But then I did get to try to walk around.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have 3 questions. Where in Canada were you?
Oh, Vancouver.
Did you do anything else while you were there? And did you get some Timmies?
No, Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Tim Hortons. No.
Yeah.
So I was part of it. I did do a little work in the hotel room. So, but I walked around. I did go to, I ended up walking 4 miles. I walked, went through Chinatown, a really cool area, walked to the botanical gardens.
Oh, cool.
And walked through there. And I looked at my watch and I'm like, this is 4 miles. I was like, there's no fucking way I'm walking back. So I got an Uber on the way back. But walked all the way through the botanical gardens, which was gorgeous. They've got art and just beautiful flowers and plants. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. And then got to see Coldplay. They had 2 nights in a row because they sold out both nights.
Damn.
And yeah, it was fantastic to walk in there with 50,000 other people and everyone singing their songs.
Yeah.
And it was just so much kindness and love and in the air. And I don't know, it was just amazing. Yeah, I'm obsessed with them. So
yeah. Well, we're happy you're back.
Yeah.
And back in the studio for another recording. I also want to tell people, before we get into this episode this week, join us on Discord. We started a Discord. Now, let me start by saying I'm an old person. And
Me too. I don't even understand Discord.
Yeah.
But I'm on there.
So there's like 4 of us there as of this recording, and 2 of them are me and Allie. So we would love to have you over on Discord. I'm thinking we could do like watch parties.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, 3, 2, 1, everybody hit play. We're going to watch whatever episode and chat and talk about it like while we're watching it.
Yeah. That would be fun.
That would be a blast. Maybe that's like a monthly thing that we do, or
when, let's see, what's coming back this fall? Discovery?
it's the last season of Discovery.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that'd be fun. And then, and I'm trying to, again, Discord people help me here. And I'm learning from other pod friends who run Discords with their shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a bot that you can plug in that assigns like roles to people based on how they interact.
Okay.
Right. So I'm thinking maybe we set that up with some kind of like rank system, you know, from cadet up to admiral or whatever.
Okay.
I think that could be fun. Or I don't know, we could come up with anything. Sky's the limit. So like, send us your thoughts.
Yeah. Maybe you can assign people a role like you're McCoy.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
And then you have to act like that. Just, you know, I don't know how that works.
Okay. Here's tell right now, just hit pause, tell 10 people about the show. We really let's get this listenership built up.
That's hilarious. That would be fun.
Because you just gave me another brilliant idea.
I did?
Yep.
Sweet.
Okay. So we, from the beginning, I've wanted to like be able to take the show on tour.
Yeah.
And go do live shows at various cities, wherever. And wouldn't it be cool if part of that live show included you, me, and Becca doing like Trek improv?
Oh my God.
Right? Like, okay, here's the scene.
Yeah.
You're McCoy, you're Kirk, I'm Spock, or whatever,
Okay.
and go.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh my God, that would be hilarious. And then we could pull in an audience member and
Yes.
say, okay, you're
a flying pancake.
you're Galloway. You're Lieutenant Galloway.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
So-
Wouldn't that be so much fun?
oh my God, that would be amazing.
Run to Patreon, tell 10 friends. Let's get this going because I want to go do that. That would be fun. Well, we have automation on the mind with our Discord bots, so we should probably let our fear of automation get the best of us as we hook up the old Starship Humanist Trek and turn over control to ChatGPT for Star Trek The Original Series, Season 2, Episode 24, The Ultimate Computer.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflect towards full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
The Enterprise is approaching a space station, and we have Commodore Enright on the line. Right off the bat, it's time for Trek Trivia. Do you know who voiced Commodore Enright?
James. Oh, no. Never mind.
Yeah.
James Doohan?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know he did
Yeah.
he also did the computer in
he's
here.
all over this episode. Yeah.
But I didn't know he did the Enright as well.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
He's
right.
the one we never see.
We never see him.
Yeah. So Kirk's pissed off because they were called here without any reason. Apparently, the reason is about to beam aboard. So we pop down to the transporter room where beams in Commodore Wesley. Commodore Wesley, played by Barry Russo, has undergone a personality replacement, though, because in The Devil in the Dark,
Was he?
he was Commander Giotto.
Giotto here, Captain. Are you all right?
Oh, he did look familiar.
Just a gray-haired old white dude, right? Like, isn't that?
They all look like right. Yeah.
Kirk dismisses the ensign and demands to know what the hell's going on because apparently they're going to be removing almost all of the crew to the space station into a security holding area. Now, this was never followed up on, but why would they need to be held in a security area?
I don't know. Why can't you just give him shore leave or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. And why didn't they tell Kirk ahead of time?
Right.
Like, why is this such...
Why is the secret?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, was this new computer like a big top secret project or whatever?
Well,
the camera cuts over to Trump taking like to-do list notes on the back of the documents of the of the M5 computer manual. What's about to happen here is that the Enterprise has been selected to have a new computer installed, the M5 Multitronic Unit, created by Dr. Richard Daystrom.
Daystrom. Okay, let's talk about Daystrom.
Yes.
Daystrom Station.
Uh-huh.
And that's where all of in current track, all the cool, sometimes dangerous tech is kept under lock and key. And I think it's Section 31.
Yeah, they have like the R&D area or whatever. Yeah.
So I thought, interesting. Is this? I like the continuity.
This is where it starts.
I love that they kept it like Daystrom. So yeah,
and through several different series, because I know we visited in TNG, I think, or talked about it. And it's something about data being whatever. Wasn't the guy that what's the guy's name that came and he was going to collect data as property of the Federation and like disassemble him and figure out how he works? Wasn't that at Daystrom Station? No.
Well, it could have been. I now have to go back and
we'll get there eventually.
Yeah,
maybe. Spock is starstruck. As starstruck as a Vulcan can be. And he fangirls out a bit about this. He's like, Daystrom designed all the computers on the Enterprise, and this new computer is the most ambitious design yet. Designed to correlate all computer activity aboard a starship and provide the ultimate operation and control. Spock's like, he's almost there. He's edging. He's excited about this computer shit.
Wesley's like, how do you know so much about it? And he has to like spit out his credentials. He's like, I hold an A7 computer expert classification, Commodore. I'm well acquainted with the doctor's theories and discoveries. Now, is that A7 computer expert classification? Is that like a A+ certification? is that
I had one of those once upon a time.
Me too. Is it like a Microsoft certification, Cisco CCNA?
This idea of like the interconnected computer, I've been bitching about that for like almost 2 seasons now, that the computers of the Enterprise aren't networked like they should be. Like, give me a box of Cat6, a router, and some hubs, and I'll get this shit taken care of. There's no reason why Spock's station is independent from the library computer, is independent from whatever else. Yeah,
I mean, but like the computers during that time, like the big mainframes where it took a whole room to, it wasn't,
It's interesting that it was a reflection of the 60s, a reflection of the times.
Yeah, but still so forward thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the Cat 5 cables, they're in the Jeffries tube.
Yes.
That's where everything is.
The Enterprise will be participating in a test of the M5 computer, a series of routine research and contact problems, navigational maneuvers, and war games, with Commodore Commander Giotto Wesley leading the attack force against them. This reminded me of there's an episode of Lower Decks where they competed against a Texas-class ship that was like fully automated, and they fly up to a planet and they do a scan and like, all of that stuff. And it's the manual versus the automation. That's what this reminded me of a little bit. This new AI has the potential to revolutionize computing the way the warp drive revolutionized space travel. And the best part, it replaces about 400 people.
Oh, no.
And the camera cuts down to the lower decks where there's a bunch of like angry part-time minimum wage workers, and they've all gathered around and they're like,
they took our jobs!
They took your job! They took your job! They took your job!
Yep, it's exactly what's happening. And Kirk's like, well, you mean they're not needed at all?
So Kirk's worried about his job too, because he's only going to have a crew of 20 for this mission, and M5 will do the rest. And Wesley's like, Jim, you've got the best job. Just sit back and let M5 do all the work. Now, when I started in radio back in the day, so originally I was at a country station, and I was like a weekend board operator.
Wait,
I know.
What?
I know. WDZQ, Decatur, Illinois.
Oh.
But I was like a weekend board operator. And so my job was I would come in on Saturday afternoon and run the NASCAR race, which is basically just broadcast down from the network. And I was there to hit play when it was time for local commercials to play.
Got it.
Right. That kind of thing. And then on Sundays, I think it was Sundays, or maybe this was both Saturday, I had a countdown that I did. that was all recorded. It was all on CDs. So all I had to do, again, pop in the CD, hit play when it was time for the commercial.
But you needed
fire
a
the
body
commercials.
there.
But you needed a body there.
Hmm.
When I left country radio, they transferred me over to the talk radio station. This is the radio that I tell stories about all the time, was when I was in talk radio. One of my first jobs at that station was an overnight board op. And like, this is exactly how it went down in radio. They were in the process of installing an automation system, computer automation, to run the whole fucking station. So where before you had to have somebody sitting at the board in the master control room 24 hours a day to manually trigger commercials when there was, and programs half the time. They were on the old carts back when I started. They were still on the old 8-track looking carts.
Wow.
But this new system was going to computerize all of that. And if you listen closely sometimes to particularly like AM talk radio, which you shouldn't listen to, but
Back in the day,
you might be familiar with this. The little chirp sound, there's like a tone, a frequency tone that clicks sometimes. And you'll notice it between commercials or between a show and
Is that like
commercials.
somebody hitting a tape?
It is an automated signal.
Oh.
And the computer in the radio station is listening for that frequency.
Oh.
And when that frequency tone comes across, it switches over and plays local commercials.
Interesting. Well, that's cool.
So that's how I lost my job as an overnight board op in talk radio. So, like, that's exactly what happened. Like, I monitored the machine that eventually took my job.
Right.
All I did was sit there overnight. I was ready to jump in and go manual if it failed, but I was just watching it do my job for me.
Wow. Yeah.
This
is personal.
It's a little bit. There's some feelings I didn't realize I still had. It worked out, though, because then I auditioned for and was promoted to the producer of the morning show. We were the #1 morning show in our market,
Awesome.
even against all the FM stations.
See,
So it was awesome.
Look, I always tell you how good you are, you know. Kirk does a captain's log, and suddenly, I don't know how long that took, but the M5 computer is now installed. They've left the space station and are already doing test maneuvers.
KSM are in the elevator, and they're engaged in a classic debate. McCoy is against the computer takeover, and Spock's got a hard-on for it, and they bicker back and forth about that until Spock gets a hot zinger here. He says, the most unfortunate lack in computer programming is that there is nothing available to immediately replace the ship's surgeon.
I was like, ooh!
Isn't it funny, though,
but he was wrong.
In Voyager, they did.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
That's my ringtone now.
Oh, I love it.
Is you saying, please state the nature of the medical.
Me?
Yeah.
He was my favorite. Well, Voyager's my favorite anyway, but I absolutely loved him. I love the actor that played him, and then I love the character.
Yeah.
But yeah, please state the nature of the medical emergency.
So Daystrom here is played by William Marshall, cousin to another Star Trek actor, Paul Winfield.
Yay, I know. And Paul Winfield was in that like historic, and everybody knows this TNG episode.
Yes.
There's so many memes about it. It's the one Darmok.
Darmok, yeah. Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His arms open.
Yes, Sokoth, his arms open. Are you watching Lower Decks yet?
No.
Okay, there is a Kayshawn character.
Oh, cool.
In Lower Decks that speaks that way. It's great. Cool. It's such a love letter to the TNG era.
I love all the love letters, though. What else do you know about him besides him being
all I know is
cousin?
He was kind of like, he appeared in a whole bunch of shows in the 50s and 60s. Bonanza, Rawhide, Alfred Hitchcock, The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
And a cult classic called Blackula.
Yes. Now I've never seen this.
You gotta go look it up, and you gotta watch it.
Okay.
I mean, it's typical. Like it's bad. It's bad, but it was funny to me. It's funny to me now.
The 1972 Blackula and its 1973 sequel, Scream Blackula Scream. I've not seen either of these.
You've got to. It's if you can get through it. I mean, it's hilarious to me.
He was on a Jeffersons for an episode. Then he did some voice work in the 80s. Spider-Man, the old original like OG animated Spider-Man. Nice. The Real Ghostbusters, which I watched the crap of as a kid. And he was on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Oh, that's right. He was. Yeah. Which is funny because the episode before this, we had a lot of.
No, I didn't tell Allie I was going to do that.
I listened to it back and I was dying laughing. And so it had so much Pee-wee stuff in it. And so this is kind of a weird connection.
Epilogue. Yeah. Down in engineering, they're introduced to Daystrom, and Spock just like jizzes in his pants. Like he's so excited to meet this guy.
Oh my goodness.
Meanwhile, Daystrom has been trying to hook up the M5, but Scotty's in the way.
Daystrom says that your engineer wouldn't allow us the necessary power without your orders.
Scotty's protective of his ship.
Heck yeah, that's his woman in a way.
Yeah. That and a bottle of scotch. Whiskey! So Kirk gives the order, and Scotty reluctantly takes Harper off to hook up the M5. Again, Spock fangirls about this guy and this new computer, but McCoy's like, what the hell are we going to do if it doesn't work? There won't be enough men aboard the ship to, like, run things if the computer fails. And Daystrom's like, who the fuck is this guy?
I know.
And why is he here? And when McCoy introduces himself as the senior medical officer, Daystrom's like, oh, well, this is a security area. You got to get out. And Kirk's like, no, he has full clearance throughout the ship. Is that unusual for like the ship's doctor, senior medical officer, to not have security clearance?
Yeah, if he's got to go rescue someone, he's got to be everywhere. So yeah, that's weird.
So they get the PC hooked up and power on. And there's some like weird noises and light flickering that comes from the warp drive. And Spock offers to help. He's dying to work alongside one of his heroes. But Daystrom assures him it's just the system settling in, and, you know, in a few moments, everything will be fine.
But Kirk is like, by the way, why is it called M5? What was there a 1 through 4?
Yeah, so Daystrom explains, we're using the WD-40 naming convention. M's 1 through 4 didn't work, right? But this one will. So we name the product after the number. Get it?
He wasn't real specific, but he just says, you know, the first 4 weren't that successful, but M5's ready to take control of the ship. And Kirk's like, wait, total control? And Daystrom's like, yep, that's what it was designed to do.
So Kirk kind of reveals the source of his own reluctance at letting a computer take over his ship. He's worried about his gerb too.
Mm-hmm.
And Daystrom questions like, is it the work or is it the prestige that comes along with being a starship captain? Like, what are you really worried about losing? So that gets Kirk up in his head for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
So I read that the story pitch for this episode really wasn't about KSM at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost entirely dedicated to Daystrom and the M5 storyline. And then Star Trek legend DC Fontana took the script and punched it up with the Kirk being worried about losing his gerb part of the story.
Every time you say gerb, it's funny.
They took our gerbs.
They took our gerbs. They took our gerbs. So in the corridor, McCoy's being a dick. He's like, did you see the love light in Spock's eyes?
But
said,
did you see that wet spot in Spock's pants?
He's not wrong, though. He's like, the right computer finally came along.
Oh, McCoy.
You dick. But anyway, he also notices that there's something not quite right with Jim. So he's like, what's wrong? We get to see like this vulnerable side of Kirk where he's seriously worried about being replaced. And he's actually showing he's afraid.
He taps the back of his head and he says, I'm getting a red alert right here. I've got a headache this big. And it's got Excedrin
written all over it.
It's not the whole replacing man with machine thing that he's worried about, though. He thinks M5 is dangerous, and it's just kind of a feeling in his gut. He can't explain it, but he's got that something's just not right here feeling. And then he kind of second guesses himself, and he asks McCoy, like, am I really afraid of losing my job to a computer? But McCoy makes a ton of sense here. He says, computers take over jobs all the time. It's just different when it's yours.
And he's right. He's right. Gosh, if you think about over the years, in the last 20 years, what jobs have gone away.
Yeah. I think I have notes for this later, but like this episode in particular was happening at a time where like auto production was being automated. And so there were lots of fears about American job losses to robots.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting how it just keeps coming back?
And because the United Auto Workers are on strike right now.
Yeah.
And they're always somehow feeling threatened. So back on the bridge, it looks like they've already performed some kind of navigational test.
There's a new box of buttons screwed onto the side of Kirk's chair.
Some more switches to flip.
Yeah. So Kirk flips a switch and disengages M5 after it made some routine course corrections, which Kirk points out could easily have been done by Sulu and Chekhov with their eyes closed. And Daystrom's like, yeah, well, I mean, think of it. We're not going to have to pay their fucking salaries anymore.
Exactly.
Isn't this the best thing ever?
And isn't it what it's all about?
Of course.
Money or efficiency or whatever.
Daystrom's like, the point is they didn't have to do it. Imagine, Kirk, imagine what humanity could do with machines doing the menial things. Music, art, gardening, passion projects. Why, one day the acquisition of wealth will no longer be the driving force in our lives. We'll work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
The economics of the future is somewhat different.
So this is the argument I've been making all along against capitalism, not just automation, but the idea of capitalism in general is that we shouldn't have to work to work. We should be able to do something that we enjoy. And in this culture, we do not, artists and musicians, and unless you're, unless you reach God status, which is so very rare, then screw you. You're not useful to society, which is totally untrue because especially the arts provide so much. And so, if we weren't working for the man and could do all of these other things, just imagine how great it could be.
Yeah. And not all of us are lucky enough to be able to marry your passion with your job.
Right.
Because a lot of times
they tell you find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Who can make money all the time at what they love? Because everybody's working to afford to do what they love.
Yeah. Daystrom's like, you don't have to turn the computer off after every little thing. Just leave it running. The screensaver comes on.
Yeah, it'll go to sleep.
But Kirk's pulling power moves. He's like, I'm still in command. I'm going to make the calls.
I'm going to flip buttons. Damn it.
Spock sticks his nose in here. He agrees with Daystrom, of course, which he kind of passes off as like, well, it's logical because allowing the M5 to continue could have further demonstrated its impressive efficiency. But he's really just fangirling again because he says M5 is another distinguished triumph for Daystrom's career.
Oh, my God. Would you suck his dick already? Jesus, Spock. So Chekhov announces that they're approaching this Alpha Carinae 2. And Daystrom tells Kirk, okay, at this point, your orders are not open for interpretation. You've got to let M5 handle the approach to the planet, the orbit, and then analyze the data regarding the landing party.
So Spock gives a report. It's Class M, oxygen, nitrogen, atmosphere, 2 major land masses, lots of islands, and life form readings. And while he's giving this report, we start seeing lights turning off down in the lower decks.
No. We are so getting fired for this.
As for the landing party assignment, Kirk decided to make his own recommendation and then compare it against M5's. So we're kind of getting what the humans would do versus what the computer ends up doing.
Yeah.
Kirk's landing party is himself, of course, Spock, McCoy, astrobiologist Phillips, and geologist Rollins. When the M5 readout is played back, the computer's a male voice, I noticed, not Majel. And
it's because it's Jimmy Doohan.
It's Jimmy Doohan.
Yeah.
Power starts going off on deck 5, and M5 reports the same information that Spock had, and then recommends Spock, astrobiologist Phillips, and geologist Carstairs, not Rollins. And Kirk's like, oh, that's just a judgment call. Managers do that all the time. Besides, Carstairs is just a lowly ensign with no experience. Rollins is the chief geologist. And now this is the thing that M5 argues against here in general, which is that, like, it shouldn't be the captain and the chief of science and the chief of medical beaming into shit all of the time.
Right. When Daystrom asked M5 why captain and chief medical officer were not included, M5 says non-essential personnel. Is he saying non-essential for the mission or just non-essential?
Non-essential for the mission.
Okay.
As for Phillips, Phillips has surveyed 29 biologically similar planets, and Carstairs served on merchant marine freighters in this area and visited this planet once before on a geology survey. So maybe he actually does have some useful experience on this one.
Right. And maybe that's because he's recommended Carstairs, because maybe Kirk didn't know that information. Kirk could have made the same.
Kirk doesn't know anything about his crew, though.
That's true.
People showing up on the bridge every week, and he's like, who are you and where'd you come from?
That's true. So, in a sense, M5 made a logical decision.
Yeah. Well, I agree with the M5 as well. And, of course, we know that this gets changed a little bit when TNG comes around, right, where the captain's not rushing off on every away mission.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty's discovered why the power keeps shutting down all over the lower decks. It's the M5. So down in engineering, Daystrom has run a scan disk, defrag, and a virus scan, and there's no malfunction. M5 is just being efficient. We offloaded all the crew, so there's no need to maintain lights and environmental controls on those decks. Yeah, environmentality. Kirk, that's all that is. Like, you should be doing that anyway. Turn the lights off when you leave the room. That's literally what just happened.
Right. Like, what's it going to hurt that...
And you're saving power.
Yeah, what's it going to hurt that there's nobody there?
Yeah.
It is sinister, though. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt to turn the power off, but it is sinister.
Spock mentions that the M5 unit seems to be drawing more power than before, and Daystrom is like, sure, I mean, the more work it does, the more power it needs. It's like the human body needs more energy to run than to stand still, that sort of thing.
But this is when Spock actually kind of steps up to Daystrom. He's not licking his asshole. But he's like, well, doctor, this unit is not a human body. The computer can process information, but only the information that's put into it. And currently nothing's being put into it. So it should be asleep right now. And it's not.
And Kirk adds, sure, it can work faster than a human brain, but it can't make a value judgment. It can't think. Or can it?
And Daystrom feels attacked. He's like, can't you understand? The multitronic unit is a revolution in computer science. I designed the duotronic elements used in your ship right now. And they are as archaic dinosaurs compared to the M5. And so he's kind of like trying to defend his little baby M5.
Mm-hmm. We're starting to get the breadcrumbs now of the M5 isn't exactly what we thought it might be, and that this guy's relationship with it is a little different.
It's not what we thought it was going to be.
Just then, Uhura calls down. They've got company. So up on the bridge, McCoy's loitering around for some reason. He's hanging around in the chair, and Kirk's like, what are you doing here? McCoy's like, well, the M5 determined that I am, what was that phrase? Non-essential personnel, until somebody tells it they need a doctor. This is turn the hologram off when you leave.
Yes, and it totally makes sense to have a holographic doctor.
I'm a doctor, not a performer. I don't have time for such nonsense.
M5 has identified the vessels as the Excalibur and Lexington, and they get a call from Commodore Wesley, who tells them that this is a surprise war games attack as a test for the M5.
Surprise!
Kirk's launching orders like he would normally, but M5 is one step ahead of him every time.
M5 is acknowledging all of the communications. They go to red alert. They've put the phasers on 100 power while M5's beat him to it. So they're ready to fight.
A few extremely low power phaser hits later, like laser tag, and the other ships move off. So no damage taken, and Daystrom is pretty impressed with his computer, but Spock is too. The reaction time was much more quick than human control could have done. Tactics, deployment of weapons, all highly sophisticated. Again, they discuss the main theme of this episode of Star Trek: The Original Series. Kirk asks Spock, really, Spock? Machine over man? But Spock responds that it was efficient and practical. Computers make excellent servants, but he prefers to have Kirk in command. He says, Captain, the starship also runs on loyalty to one man, and nothing can replace it or him.
Oh, but yeah, so Spark is Spark. Jesus Christ. Spark is kind of like empathizing with Jim and trying to reassure him, we still love you. You're needed here. And Uhura announces that there's a call coming in from Commodore Wesley. And Wesley pops on and he's like, the USS Lexington and the Excalibur, both ships report simulated hits in sufficient quantity. Everything looks good from their end. And he gives his compliments to the M5 and to Captain Dunsel, which they had to explain to me.
And I'm glad because I had no idea what they were talking about.
And McCoy says, like, who the fuck is, who is Captain Dunsel? And apparently everybody else knows.
You know, when everybody else knows, you know what that usually means? It's you.
It's McCoy.
McCoy is Captain Dunsel.
It's totally McCoy.
So Spock has to explain that Dunsel is a term used by midshipmen at the Academy, referring to a part which serves no useful purpose. Later, Kirk's in his quarters, licking his wounds and worrying about his gerb, when McCoy shows up with a tray, and Kirk's like, I'm not hungry, Bones. And McCoy pulls the cover off and says, good, because we're doing shots. Shots.
He's got a little drop of the true. I mean, I think that's the only thing he's good at is pouring drinks.
Yeah. Him and Scotty need to get together, right?
Yeah, I could love to see them totally tanked.
This drink is apparently called a Finnegal's Folly, and it's...
Well, it's green.
Green.
Oh, it's Orion. It's from Orion.
Yeah. Kirk takes a glass and toasts Captain Dunsel, and McCoy toasts James T. Kirk, captain of the Enterprise. So again, his friends are like giving him little signals of support.
Aww.
McCoy's actually here on a therapy house call. Kirk throws back his drink, and from his reaction, it's pretty strong. Whatever it is, it's got some... It's like that Johnny Walker Black Label I had under my sink for years.
Ugh. Gross.
But it's green.
So Kirk starts reciting poetry.
Yeah.
He's like, do you know the one, all I ask is a ship? And it's I guess a line from some poem. I don't know if I should know it, but never heard of it.
This is a phrase that I've heard before, and I don't know where all else I've heard it.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, super popular. This is from the 1902 poem Sea Fever by Johns Masefield. I did some research for this episode.
Nice. I wish Becca would ask these questions.
Right? The ones that I actually researched. So, shall I read the poem?
Let's do it.
I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and sky. I don't know that I could do that the whole time.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. Now that sounds familiar. Okay.
And all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. Am I doing Klingon or pirate Klingon?
Yeah, you're doing a Scottish Klingon.
Yeah.
Is what that. That's what you're doing.
And the wheels kick and the wind's song and the white sails shaking and a gray mist on the sea's face and a gray dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying and the flung spray and the blown spume and the seagulls crying. Is he coming on somebody's face right there? Is that what we're doing? Spume is a word that I had not been as familiar with. Yeah. Spume.
Oh, this just reminds me of this. Oh.
Like splooge. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life. Don't use that word anymore, kids. To the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yawn from a luffing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep and a sweet dream when the long trick's over.
I can't wait to hear what you...
I almost made it to the end.
I can't wait to hear what you do in the background.
Oh, I'm going to put some sea shanty shit behind me.
He gets interrupted after all of that poetry diatribe. Uhura tells Kirk you need it on the bridge, like right now.
Another ship, this time large and slow-moving, unidentified. This is not a drill.
Uh-oh.
On the bridge, M5 is still in control, and it's identified the ship as the Woden, an old-style freighter converted to automation. No crew. So here we are, another automation theme.
Yeah.
So there's not really a threat here, but M5 kicks into action, fires up the shields and deflectors and jumps to warp 3 and starts licking shots of this thing.
Jesus Christ. And Sulu and Chekhov are like, we're not doing this.
Yeah. Kirk calls for Daystrom to come to the bridge because they're unable to disengage M5. They can't reduce speed. Manual overrides aren't working.
Daystrom need to get his ass up here right now. He comes in and he's like, what's wrong? Everything's locked. We can't disengage the computer. The photon torpedoes are locking on fucking target at full power, not the little love taps they were doing with
phasers. Yeah.
Right. So Kirk is like, get this shit under control, please.
But they can't get anything done in time. Torpedoes away, and the Woden is destroyed.
I mean, we kind of knew what this was going to be.
Yeah.
We knew all the computers are all evil every time,
Of course.
every episode.
And just like nothing happened, the evil M5 returns to their original course and speed. And McCoy's hopping mad about this, and he gets all yelly on the bridge again. But Daystrom's like, well, gosh, there must be some defect in the computer. And McCoy's like, no shit, your brilliant and young computer just destroyed an ore freighter. In fact, went out of its way to destroy it. So McCoy's real pissed off here.
Daystrom is like, well, fortunately it was only a robot ship, but he didn't even seem to care because even the ore ship, as McCoy points out, still was important.
So this argument escalates until Kirk calls McCoy off and orders Daystrom to disengage the M5. He's calling off the tests and returning to the space station. And Kirk says, come along, Daystrom. M5 is out of a gerb. And the camera cuts down to engineering where M5 is wearing a trucker cap and holding a natty light and yelling,
They took our jib!
As Kirk leads Spock and Daystrom into engineering, he says out loud that they're going to turn it off. And M5 zaps him with some kind of energy field that knocks him back. So now everyone's AI fears have come to fruition. M5 has taken over the ship. Kirk's demanding that Daystrom figure out how to turn off the AI, but he can't. Scotty suggests just pulling the plug at the source. And Daystrom almost begs for a few moments to be with the computer. Like, let me have a few minutes with it. And Kirk's like, no.
Kirk is P-I-S-S. He's pissed.
So Scotty and Engineer Harper go off to pull the main breaker. But when Harper gets in between that panel and the M5 unit,
right in the booty.
Oh my God! They've killed
Mr. Harper.
you bastards!
So this beam goes straight to Harper as he's bending over to put something into the something. So he gets zapped and he is just gone.
Vaporized.
Jeez.
Daystrom doesn't seem to be affected by this death at all. It's just an ensign. What
I
do we
know,
care?
right?
Just a red shirt.
Does he not have any feelings? But yeah.
Well, he has feelings for his AI because he defends it and says it wasn't deliberate. M5 just decided it needed a new power source and the ensign simply got in the way. And Kirk's like, well, how long before the rest of us simply get in the way?
Oh, don't worry. Kirk's like, okay, Spock, Scotty, come with me. So they go to the briefing room. They leave Daystrom out of it to try to talk it out, figure out what to do, because they're about to reach this rendezvous point for some more war games. And this time it won't be fun and games.
So Spock suggests disrupting helm control from engineering level 3, and Scotty agrees. So with Spock's help, he thinks it would take an hour. And that's cutting it real close because we're about an hour to rendezvous. Scotty rushes off to get started, leaving KSM. McCoy wants to get a hold of Daystrom, which for some reason they just left alone in engineering with a murder machine.
I know, right?
Kirk says he thinks the AI even surprised Daystrom, but I didn't get that from his reaction at all. I didn't buy that Daystrom was surprised.
I don't either, actually, because he had absolutely just did not give a shit about a ship or another human being.
Yeah.
I would expect for him to be apologetic and really sorry and shocked, but no.
Spock's starting to figure out what's going on here, though, because he says if anyone should have known how the AI would have behaved, it would have been Daystrom, and that the AI has not been behaving very logically. So we get a moment of levity as McCoy says, please, Spock, do me a favor and don't say it's fascinating. And Spock says, no, but it is interesting.
You could see the whites of McCoy's eyes as he rolls them.
You could hear his eyes roll back in his head, yeah.
Spock and Mr. Scott are playing around in the Jeffries tube, trying to do what they said they were going to do. Recross and relay and do some other stuff.
In engineering, McCoy's confronting Daystrom, and this pushes Daystrom to kind of come clean. Apparently, he thinks of this AI like a child, like his child, and he refuses to turn it off because you don't just shut off a child when it makes a mistake. It needs to learn from this.
He literally says that M5 is growing and learning as if he, like you said, it's like if he knew that this was going to happen. And McCoy points out that it's learning to kill, but Daystrom's like, no, it's defending itself. It's a different thing. And he goes back to some child analogy about when a child is taught, it's programmed with simple instructions. And then at some point, their mind develops and it exceeds the sum of what it was taught.
Yeah. He goes on kind of an unhinged rant here. You can't understand. You're frightened because you can't understand. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show all of you. It takes 430 people to man a starship. With this, you don't need anyone. One machine can do all those things they send men out to do now. Then he says men no longer need die in space or on some alien world. Men can live and go on to achieve greater things than fact-finding and dying in galactic space.
Mm-hmm.
Which is neither ours to give or to take. They can't understand. We don't want to destroy life. We want to save it. So it seems he's got some good intentions.
Yeah, and I feel conflicted because I mean, this is exactly what we just said.
Yeah.
Is like, I get it, though. But
yeah.
But also, when you think about like what we did, we went to Mars with a machine, a rover. We do that, and that's what we should do first.
Yeah.
Before we put a human being in there.
Yeah.
We got to make sure that a machine can. So, I mean, I agree with it in that sense, too. There's some things that humans are always going to be needed for, but maybe is it a good thing that we're being replaced?
Yeah.
Or is it just how we feel about it? That's what's bad. I don't know.
McCoy arrives in Kirk's quarters, and he's reviewed the biotapes about Daystrom. Nothing exciting, except that he's a genius. He made the duotronic breakthrough at age 24, won a bunch of prizes, and maybe that's the problem. When you peak at such a young age, what's left? Write some papers, give some lectures, or maybe spend the rest of your life chasing that high.
And then you just kind of get bored and you become an evil genius. And,
yeah.
And boredom is what makes you do all these evil things.
So this next bit of argumentation felt a little out of world for me. McCoy's like, M1 through 4, remember, not entirely successful. That's how Daystrom put it. And Kirk tries to argue that you can't put today I'll be a genius on the calendar and then make it happen. This all takes work. But McCoy says, and this is where my disbelief ran rampant, the government bought it, so Daystrom had to make it work. And that seems out of the Trekverse to me. He's saying that the Federation became interested in this AI technology and bought it. And so when you've got, a sergeant major general or whatever up your shit about this project, like then he had to figure out something to do to get it working because of that pressure.
I don't feel, I didn't get the sense that Daystrom was under pressure by anyone.
Mm-mm.
This was his brainchild and his project alone.
Yeah.
But that was, so you're right. I didn't notice it.
The whole government bought it thing just threw me for a loop.
They just threw that in there.
Yeah. So the conclusion McCoy has come to is that Daystrom thinks of this AI as his child. And if you had a child that were suddenly antisocial, maybe even killed some people, you'd still want to protect that child, right? And Kirk's like, Jesus, now he's got you talking about that machine like a person. But that's just it. Daystrom does think of it as a person. Spock calls down. They're ready to go. So Kirk and McCoy head to the Jeffries tube, and they bump into Daystrom along the way. I know they only kept 20 people aboard, and one has died, but somebody ought to be watching this guy, right?
No, they never have anybody. They always let people just roam the ship.
Spock explains the plan, and Daystrom loses his shit, begs them not to take control away from M5, begs them to let him work with M5 instead. And Kirk's like physically holding him back as he tries to get into the Jeffries tube.
But he had more of a reaction about the potential death, quote unquote death of M5 than he did for the other human life.
Yeah.
And he was close to hysterical trying to keep Spock from like flipping the switch.
But Spock and Scotty pull the plug. Manual override seems to be working, and Kirk calls up Sulu to turn us around and head back to the space station. But when they click and clack some buttons, nothing happens. Spock asks Chekhov to check the H.279 elements and the G95 systems at the engineering station. And G95 is dark, and Spock says, well, it appears we have been doing what used to be called pursuing a wild goose. I hate when they do that.
What when
The
Spock
cheesy,
has to do
yeah.
M5 somehow outsmarted them, and it knew what they were trying to do, so it rerouted the helm ahead of time or whatever to the navigation controls and bypassing the primary system. So they wasted their time.
Yeah.
It wanted them to waste their time. Decoyed.
The question is, why was it wasting their time? What's it up to? And Spock's like, I don't know, man. It's not performing logically at all. So Kirk corners Daystrom and demands to know what this M5 actually is. And Spock says, no offense to you human people, but it sure seems to be behaving kind of like a human. And that's exactly what this is. A computer with a new approach. A human approach. People, including Kirk, you'll recall, argued against this computer control because it took the human element out of everything.
And then Daystrom adds the human element back in. And how he did it was he developed a method for impressing human engrams upon the computer circuits. And so that's why it's now sort of acting like a man.
Yeah, it's thinking. And McCoy's like, well, one thinking computer is already one too many, but Spock's got that gerb, so we don't need yours.
Dick.
Uhura calls down 4 Federation starships on the sonar, and M5 is moving to intercept.
Fuck's sake.
The war games are upon us.
Yeah.
But M5 doesn't know it's a game, and the Federation ships don't know that M5 has gone berserk and took over the ship.
This is like always the best situation in a scene in a movie or a show when there's a lot of shit happen and nobody knows.
Yeah.
But we know what's about to happen.
Yes.
So, yeah.
After the break, KSM arrive on the bridge where Uhura has been trying to call up the Lexington, but M5 has all the outgoing comms blocked. There is a message from the Lexington, though, and M5 lets that one through. It's Commodore Wesley giving the commands to begin the M5 drill, which M5 acknowledges.
So, yeah.
Okay, it knows it's a drill.
It
We're
knows
okay.
it's a drill. That's why I'm like, okay, it's not like you didn't know this was still practice.
Yeah. And I assume that's because the voice command that was given is the same as it was earlier. Like, this is an M5 test of the blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I repeat, this is only a test. So that's the trigger that makes the computer know that it's a test.
But for some reason, Chekhov says that the deflector shield has come on, and now they're increasing to warp 4.
Now, again, the deflector seals just don't pop on by themselves.
Apparently
in this case,
they do.
M5 turned them on.
Okay, M5. But in the past, I think Sulu would say the shield snapped on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
They had that before.
They have had before.
I'm so confused.
M5 heats up the phasers to full strength and takes a couple licks at the Lexington. And on they cut to the bridge of the Lexington, and Wesley's like, what the fuck, man?
And they literally, M5 starts firing. And he's like, what the devil is Kirk doing? And he's got a damage report, and he's got some injured, and Jesus Christ.
So he makes a few runs on the Excalibur and the Lexington. The Hood and the Potemkin are fucking off because they're like, oh shit, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Uhura gets a video call from Wesley, and he's like, Jesus Christ, Jim, have you gone mad? Stand down. We've got 53 dead over here, 12 on the Excalibur.
Oh my god! They've killed
53 dead here, 12 on the Excalibur.
you bastards!
Kirk can't respond. Kirk can see him, but I don't know if he can see Kirk. And M5 is not allowing them to respond.
Kirk leaps out of the chair and grabs Daystrom by the shirt and kind of shakes him a little bit. And he's like, well, now you've got some murder charges. Deliberate, calculated. That's what this thing is. It's killing men and women, 4 starships, 1,600 men and women.
Daystrom is still defending that piece of shit. And he's like, it miscalculated. Meanwhile, Wesley's still asking him to please break off his attack. Excalibur's, what's left of it, is moving away. But then M5 is going to follow with phasers locked on.
Spock's got an idea. It turns out that Daystrom used his own engrams when programming M5. And he talked to it before with that computer tie-in at Spock's station, so maybe if he talked to it, he could talk it down. Conditions are changing rapidly, though. Uhura's tapped into a call from the Lexington to Starfleet Command. Excalibur's Captain Harris and First Officer are dead.
Oh my god! They've killed
Excalibur Captain Harris and First Officer.
you bastards!
Lots of other casualties, and the Enterprise isn't answering hails, so Wesley's asking Command for permission to destroy the Enterprise to save the rest of their lives.
Daystrom is like, all he's worried about is the M5. He's not even worried about himself on the Enterprise. He's just worried about the M5. They'll destroy it.
It's a very protective parent sort of role.
Almost blind. I don't know what you call that when it's just blind.
Loyalty or whatever. So the only way to save the M5 and all of their lives is for Daystrom to talk to it. So he goes over to Spock's computer and he double clicks on the AOL icon. And he's like, M5, you there? And M5 goes, welcome. You've got mail.
Goodbye.
Daystrom establishes identity and that M5 knows him, and he tries to convince M5 that the attack is wrong. But M5 is like in survival mode. It thinks it has to kill everyone to save itself. And he says, look, M5, you're killing people. That's not your function. That's not why I created you. You're supposed to save people, not kill them.
And M5 says that this unit must survive. And it says they attack this unit. Programming includes full freedom to choose defensive action in all attack situations.
There's another little breadcrumb here about evil Daystrom, and that is that he kind of slips back and forth between you and we a lot, which it kind of makes clear that he sees M5 as a part of himself or them as a single being.
Mm-hmm.
Daystrom's about to lose his mind at this point. He's going on about how he spent 20 years trying to prove that what he'd done before wasn't just a fluke, giving lectures to rooms full of idiots who couldn't even begin to understand what he was doing, even his colleagues laughing behind his back, while also becoming famous by building on his work. So Kirk's like, look, you gotta kill that thing. But Daystrom is in a full maniacal rage now and goes on an evil madman speech. Kill it? No way. We're invincible. See, we've almost crushed your 4 weak-ass starships like those D-14s on that one planet a couple weeks ago. While he's been talking, Spock has positioned himself behind him, and Kirk grabs his shoulders and Spock takes him down with a neck pinch and sends McCoy off to sickbay with him.
So now they've got to figure out, without Daystrom, how to fix this. Uhura says Lexington's getting a message from Starfleet, and they've been authorized to use all measures to destroy the Enterprise.
Blow up the damn ship!
No! They are a danger to Starfleet right now.
Now, I didn't find this in my research because I don't think there was a voice credit, but the voice person from Starfleet also sounded like Jimmy Doohan to me, and so maybe I'm just hearing things.
Everything sounds like Jimmy Doohan. I mean, yeah. I don't know. It could be him.
Jimmy Doohan all the way down.
Yeah.
Kirk's like, fuck, Allie's Honor the Dead is going to have a lot of bars this week.
So many bars.
Because M5 will do everything it can to survive, and that means the death of all of those people. So Spock's like, hey, Jim, do you remember how in the Star Trek, the original series episode, The Changeling, you talked Nomad to death? And how in Star Trek, the original series episode, The Return of the Archons, you talked Landru to death? Or how in Star Trek, the original series episode, I Mud, you talked Norm and the Alice Bots to death? You think that would work again here?
No. Oh boy, have I got a surprise for you. But yeah.
So that's the plan. Use M5's humanity against it. Hope that it has some guilt from all this killing. So Kirk goes over to Spock's computer and he fires up the modem again. And he pops in an old floppy in the drive, pulls out the keyboard, cracks his fingers, and types in a:/logicloop.exe.
Presses enter.
M5 must survive. It will replace man, so man may achieve. Man must not risk death in space or other dangerous occupations. This unit must survive so that man may be protected.
So then Kirk points out to M5, well, there were many men aboard those ships. They were murdered. Must you survive by murder?
Here we go. M5 says, I can't murder.
Kirk says, why?
There's a line here that I obviously don't like.
I know. I know.
When Kirk asks why, it says, murder is contrary to the laws of man and God. So written for a 1960s audience, I guess.
And definitely unlike a computer, because none of that is logic.
Right. So M5 cannot murder, except it did. And there's the loop. Well, what's the punishment for murder, M5? Death. Okay. Another momentary pause here, because this is the second time, I believe, that we've heard of a death penalty in the socialist space future.
Right.
But apparently this was part of the programming. So because the wages of sin is death or whatever, M5 realizes it has to terminate itself. Kirk and Spock look at each other with a look that's like, damn, I can't believe that worked a fourth time.
So Spock mentions that, the machine is committing suicide to atone for the sin of murder, and it's leaving itself open for attack.
Why didn't it just self-destruct or something, right?
Yeah.
Because now it's like in hibernate mode or whatever, and it could just wake up and take control again at any moment, right?
Kirk is like, get down to engineering quick before he changes his mind. He tells Scotty and Spock.
So M5 no longer has control, but neither does Kirk, and he makes an announcement on the intercom saying that they're left open for destruction, but at least take some kind of comfort in the fact that our 19 deaths will save over 1,000 lives. This is the going down with the ship speech.
Yeah. On the Lexington Bridge, Wesley is ready to fucking follow Starfleet's orders and blow them out of the space. Spock calls up to Captain Kirk and confirms that M5 is neutralized and the system's coming back, and that they're trying to give them power to the shields. It's just coming on. They don't have communications yet, and that's going to take longer. So they can't talk to Captain Wesley. So there's no way for them to tell Captain Wesley, hey, M5 is gone. Don't shoot.
But Kirk decides to communicate with Wesley by keeping the shields down. This gamble pays off as Wesley calls off the attack. In sickbay, KSM stand around Daystrom, laying on a biobed under sedation and with heavy restraints. McCoy thinks he'll have to be committed to a total rehabilitation center, and Kirk's like, oh, hey, what about that planetarium place that we visited that one time?
Hello, children. My name is Dr. Adams. Welcome to the planetarium.
Spock remarks that the M5 is in a similar condition to Daystrom, heavily sedated, apparently, and Kirk says, well, that was my plan. Daystrom apparently believed murder to be against the laws of God and man, so those beliefs passed to M5 through his engrams. And Spock asks, and how did you know the attacking ships would not fire on us with our shields down? That seems exactly like the kind of trap M5 might have set. Kirk says he wasn't sure. It was a gamble on Wesley's humanity. And Wesley chose compassion. This is great. McCoy tries to bait Spock into another heated conversation. He says, compassion, Spock, that's the one thing no machine ever had. Maybe it's the one thing that keeps men ahead of them. Care to take that bait, Spocko?
Spock just says, no, I'm just simply saying that computers are more efficient than humans, not better.
And McCoy's like, right, but let's say you've got a free Saturday night with no plans. Which would you rather spend time with, Spock? And Spock's like, I presume your question is meant to offer me a choice between machines and human beings, and I believe I have already answered that question. McCoy's like, Jesus, Spock, I was just trying to make conversation. No, you weren't. You were trying to bait him into a debate.
As usual.
As usual. Spock always gets the last word, though.
I love it.
His burns are always fire. He says, it would be most interesting to impress your memory engrams on a computer, Doctor. The resulting torrential flood of illogic would be most entertaining.
Yeah, he does. He has the best zingers.
Back to the space station we go, and off to the next adventure.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'm happy the affair is over.
Me too.
A most annoying, emotional episode.
Yeah, but I learned something today.
When dreams become more important than reality, you give up travel, building, creating.
One jealous god, if all this makes a god.
By sparing your helpless enemy, who surely would have destroyed you, you demonstrated the advanced trait of mercy.
Frankly, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed. You must admit, it is an unsophisticated expression.
Where do I start? I get man's fear of like losing or being replaced. Because of the way our society is built, it does hurt us, you know, as humans.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't this way, but we have to work. We have to make money to live. So I get that. But also what Daystrom said about like, if we didn't have to work to make money doing these shit jobs,
yep,
then we can actually enjoy life and do the things we actually want to do.
And I think the episode was making that point that like the idea of automation isn't inherently bad.
Right.
But automation in a capitalist society is bad.
Yeah.
For sure. Like we have to figure out a way to make sure that people will have their basic needs met without working. That's where I think we need to be as a society in 2023. Like
without having to work too.
Right. Yeah.
Like we're prisoners of this society because you have to have a job to survive.
Yeah.
Well, in this country.
Yep.
There are some countries that do take care of their unemployed and older people.
Better than us, for sure. But we're number one. We're number one. America!
USA. Yeah.
So yeah, you want to make some robots to take over all the janitorial cleaning jobs? I'm here for that. But then you have to find a way to let those people who worked those jobs do something more meaningful.
Yeah.
Or more enjoyable, or to do nothing, because who fucking gives a shit?
Yeah.
Honestly, isn't that the goal? That none of us would have to work? Wouldn't that be great? You'd choose to do the thing that you enjoy?
So many things I'd like to do.
Capitalism is in our way.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to bring up a point about like AI is like the big thing right now.
Yeah.
Everyone's afraid of it. And I don't think it's necessarily AI that we have to be afraid of. I think we have to be afraid of the people that are fucking behind the AI.
Yeah, for sure.
It's never really the computer itself. It's the people behind it.
Yeah.
But I think AI can be really useful.
Yeah, and I think like that argument that like the thing that most people are afraid of with automation being like the computers rising up against us and you know like,
Skynet.
Or you know put their quote unquote lives ahead of humans, and I don't think that's where the real fear should be. It is that capitalists will replace humans with machines while also destroying the safety nets that could ensure food and housing and medical care and all the stuff that we're going to need that we won't be working to pay for anymore.
Right. Which is something everyone should be entitled to.
So that's the gremlin in the system as far as I'm concerned. It's a conservative voice that says we shouldn't have welfare programs because that just makes people lazy. And it's the pro-capitalist, like hard work is a virtue nonsense.
Yeah.
Where that comes from, for sure.
But if you ain't got shit to do, like everything that you've trained your whole life to do has been now taken over by a machine. Now what?
Yeah.
So that whole thing about being late, fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. No shit. That you would withhold food from someone who simply isn't working for some reason or another, and you've got the mads about that, so you're not going to give them food. Get the fuck out of here.
Everybody should eat.
There is also a little bit of an Ahab story happening here. Daystrom on his quest to prove all those people wrong who doubted him and laughed at him.
Oh, yeah.
Chasing the whale of success.
Yeah. He went a little mad.
Yeah, that singular focus on the thing that tends to drive people mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a quick one at the end, but the idea that Kirk gambled on Wesley's humanity.
Can't do that with a machine.
Nope.
Which is kind of cool because, yeah, I think if we try to put a computer or AI into a situation where you have to depend on some kind of human feeling, judgment.
Yeah.
Sometimes logic isn't going to cut it.
Think about our quote unquote justice system now, right? Imagine if it was a computer deciding cases and assigning punishments.
Oh, man.
Right? It would go by the book. If the book says for a first offense for this particular crime in this locale, the punishment is X weeks in jail. It will assign X weeks in jail, where a human judge has the ability to kind of hear your story and who you are and what you've been through and
how you came to do what you did.
Yeah, and how you're going to change and all that kind of stuff. And then you can kind of add the human element to it to say either, well, this was a particularly egregious thing and you deserve more.
Right.
Or, you know, hey, maybe this was your first offense. We'll go a little easy on you.
Or I'm going to play devil's advocate. Like, if two people do the same thing wrong, shouldn't they both get the same thing?
I could see that, yeah.
But I'm just saying, I'm playing devil's advocate, but there are extenuating circumstances where, like, I wouldn't have done that if I
wouldn't have stolen the bread were I not starving and
exactly
living on the streets. And,
and a computer everybody would get the same regardless.
Right.
And is that right? I mean,
right.
But technically it's fair.
Yeah.
But is it right?
But is it? Yeah.
In a human's eyes.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one to think about. Damn. So Wesley showed compassion instead of just following the orders to destroy the Enterprise. In stark contrast to the way M5 was making decisions. Despite its own sort of humanity, its motivation was self-preservation above all else. Where the more human, or maybe the more humanist response should be for the well-being of all, not just the self. Right? Maybe even at the expense of the self in some cases, the goods of the many and so forth. Think about things like paying taxes that go towards public education, even though you don't have kids.
Yeah.
Right? There is a real benefit to the larger whole of society.
Oh, yeah.
At the cost of the individual.
I pay my taxes happily because I don't want the entire community of the world to go to shit around me.
Yeah. I don't want to live in a world of idiots.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I want people to be educated for sure. So is AI good or bad? Yes.
Depends.
Yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah, depends.
Well, now it's time to honor the dead.
Oh, boy.
We had a lot of deaths in this episode. Some of them in groups, but
there was nobody on the Woden, but we had Harper, poor guy, and then like all the people on like the Excalibur and the Lexington. So yeah, we had a few.
It's dead, Jim.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
Straight out of Daystrom, M5 started out chill, took over the Enterprise against her will. Then it went gangsta, destroyed the Woden, and everybody was like, damn, here we go again. Tried to turn it off through a bypass. Ensign Harper got a death ray right up his ass. I'm not sure. Excalibur, Lexington, they were nervous, but M5 turned the dial and went straight murderous. Condolence to the crew, at least the ones who were left. Kirk saved the day and talked M5 to death. The moral of the story is this, my friends. You let computers take over and you'll never win.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
I was cracking up when I was making this. I'm like, oh my God, this is so good.
That's my favorite one yet.
Yeah, I think so too.
For sure.
Let me know if I have to do it again because you're.
No, that was great. Okay.
That was hilarious.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
There are a lot of great ways to help support the show here. One of the free ways to do that is to leave us a review and a rating wherever you happen to listen to Humanist Trek. Of course, one of the best ways to support us, though, is to give some of your Federation credits to us by becoming a patron of the show. And this week, we're welcoming a new patron. This week, we want to welcome new founding admiral from Down Under. Welcome aboard, Admiral Sherry D'Souza. It's Sherry. Sherry from Down Under.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Sherry. We want to thank all of our patrons. We especially want to thank our founding admirals. Special thanks to Russell, Allie, Peter, Sarah, and now Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're the best. Patrons get early access to every episode, special merch, a growing catalog of bonus content like personal logs, and our reactions to the new Very Short Treks, which I'm excited to record a couple more here. There's a lot of great reasons to join our fleet, so head on over to patreon.com/humanistrek and pledge as little as $3 a month. It really does make a big difference and means a lot to us. Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, let's bring Becca back in for the exciting answer to last week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge. Last time on Humanist Trek, you asked us...
This is the only time in the series that we get a view of the Enterprise from where?
Okay, I don't know that I wrote down.
I did.
Okay, what did we say?
I think I said from the other side.
Ali said from the other side of the model, and Sarah said from a shuttlecraft window.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't remember. I've watched it. I wasn't watching for the answer, though.
I wasn't either.
Crap.
Well, Ali's definitely totally wrong.
Incorrect.
Great.
And this, I'm struggling with whether or not I should give you a half a point for your answer.
Okay, should I? Hold on, let me think.
But I'm thinking maybe we need to ask our viewers. I'm going to tell them what the answer is.
Okay.
And then I want their advice on how we should score this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I originally wrote half a point.
Your view of the Enterprise.
We see the Enterprise from another ship.
Oh, but it's on a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on a view screen.
Oh.
So
interesting.
So you said shuttlecraft.
Okay.
And so I'm struggling.
But it wasn't
tell me,
shuttlecraft. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for you to not get this point. She said shuttlecraft, and another ship is not a shuttlecraft.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, at first I was like, I'll give her half a point because it's another vehicle, but a shuttlecraft is not a ship. So
yeah, I think I got that one wrong.
Okay.
Incorrect.
All right, well, never mind. We won't poll the viewers.
I won't try to use a lifeline. Next week on Humanist Trek, we'll be reviewing Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 25, Bread and Circuses. Spock and McCoy are forced to fight in Roman-like games.
Huh.
Yeah, okay. I don't remember this either.
Me either. Like a gladiator type thing.
Yeah. Okay, what's our question for Bread and Circuses?
In this episode, we see a coat of arms featured on the clothes of Claudius Marcus. What influential writer and actor does this coat of arms actually belong to in real life?
Was this person a writer and actor at the time?
No.
Or they've since become writer and actor?
No.
No, those are mutually exclusive. It has to be one or the other.
It does not have to be one or the other because you have history.
What past writer and actor?
Shakespeare.
That's obviously the answer, right?
It's gotta be. Well, first of all, it has to be someone British or, you know what I mean?
Right, for there to even be a coat of arms, right?
Right. And we know the Shakespearean influence on Star Trek.
Yes,
so,
agreed.
I mean, that's...
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with you. We're going with Shakespeare. Final answer, Regis.
Final answer. I don't know.
But there's always the likely possibility that we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. So if you know better than us and would like to play along, head over to your favorite social media app, share out this episode, leave the hashtag Starfleet Challenge in your answer, and we'll search for you and find you, and you will be the reigning champion. Next week on Humanist Trek, Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 25, Bread and Circuses.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla!
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.